Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today it's going to be another one of these figurized standard amplified Digimon kits, and this, of course, is Imperialdramon. Taking a look inside the box, and you can see that there is two different forms inside of this box. Of course, I've built this already, and I can tell you one is vastly superior to the other, but we'll find out which one very soon. As always, this video right here would not have been possible without those awesome people over at Hobby Link Japan, so if you do want one of your own, there will be a link right down there in the description. Now let's get right on into it. So starting straight into it with the overview, and there's Imperialdramon with absolutely everything that comes in the box. That of course is the positron laser and all of the parts that are used to convert this into dragon mode. And also I will mention at this point that you do build this as dragon mode, not as the night mode that we have right here. I just thought this looks cooler, so we'd start with this. But anyway, that is enough about the accessories. Let's get right on into Imperialdramon itself. So jumping right on into the aesthetics, and there's Imperialdramon out of the box, just snapped together with no extra effort whatsoever. And looks-wise, this does look quite good. When it comes to Digimon kits, Bandai does put a lot of work into the plastic. They always look like they've got that true multifaceted effect. And what I mean by that is all the different types of plastic used on here to give it that multi-texture, multi-surface kind of look. The wings on here are in a soft, almost matte finish, which really diffuses the light. The exact same can be said about the blue plastic on this, that is also in a kind of semi-matte. And then popping off against that is that crazy, shiny, glossy black. Depending on your own perspective, that gloss injection gold may not be your cup of tea. For example, on the box here, this looks absolutely incredible. That is a very nice shade of gold. The reason for this though is, well, it's paint, and gold paint looks nice, but metallic injection plastic not so much. However, in this kit, this might be one of the nicest looking gloss, or should I say metallic injection golds I've seen to date. This is impressive. So yeah, compared to what we see on a lot of Gunpla, or especially the Re-Rising Gundam and all those kind of things, that is actually a pretty nice shade of gold. That isn't so bad at all. Plastic-wise, this thing looks phenomenal. Anyway, there we go with that full 360-degree spin, so you can see absolutely every angle of this kit, just in case there's something I forget to mention about it. So I will mention straight off the bat that there is quite a few hollow parts on this. That is mainly due to the fact that it's down to the transformation. I actually think that kind of makes this kit a little worse than it could be. Of course, a lot of people would like the transforming aspect of it, but Dragon mode isn't so great. We'll take a look at that later on. This, to me, is the superior mode, but it does mean, like, what we're seeing under the shoulders there with all those functional pegs, the kind of hollow parts, it's not really all that pretty to look at. But besides that, the rest of the kit does look really good. But we do have a few stickers, so let's talk about those. So that right there is what we have when it comes to stickers, and there is quite a few color correcting ones in here, but it's not the worst. All of those gold ones, some of those go on the torso, some of them go on the corners of the positron thingamabobber here, but the worst aspect is the black and the white ones right here, which are for using on this segment here. So the whole top of this is meant to be black and white, but it's all cast in red. This is the back of the dragon's head, so it's not the biggest deal. As for the stickers that I did use, I only used the ones I felt were completely necessary, and those are the ones that are up there in the eyes, on the knight's head, and in the eyes of the dragon's head. As size goes, this guy is pretty damn big. There it is side by side with War Greymon. And I will say, to this day, I still think this is the best one of these amplified Digimon kits yet. It's solid, it's big, it's heavy, it does struggle with its weight a little bit, but this right here is a bit light and flimsy build-wise in comparison. It does not feel nearly as nice. Next up then, we've got Metal Garurumon. There they are side by side. This, in my opinion, comes second quality-wise and in general build-wise when it comes to these kits. And once again, in my opinion, still somewhat better than this right here. And finally then, there it is side by side with Omegamon. As for some other size comparisons, there it is side by side with the standard SH Figuarts, beside a Dusty Figma, a high-grade Gundam, so you can see it's pretty big, and a Master Grade Gundam, so once again, pretty big. So anyway, jumping on back to the start one more time, there is the overview of everything that comes in here, so let's get right on into those accessories. There isn't really a lot, so let's check them out. So the first of the accessories we have in here is this, the positron laser. We have two pop-out handles. So to equip this, you just pop open the dragon's mouth. It attaches into the hands as simple as that and that. And there we go, we've got them ready to pop one off. The rest of the accessories in here are for converting this kit into dragon mode, so before we do that, let's check out the articulation in night mode. So getting right on into the articulation, and I'm going to mention first about this thing's build. It is a little bit on the loose side. If you give it any sort of shake, the legs will drop like that. They don't really hold up their own weight too well. Whenever you try to put it in a pose, it will sag out of it, so the arms are okay. The shoulders are very likely to pop off. On the whole though, it is okay, but I do recommend tightening up the joints, especially the ones in the waist, if you wanted to hold any poses for any amount of time. The neck in here is just a single ball joint, so what we get in here is tilt side to side, looking down and looking up. Of course we've got the side to side turn, but in general, it is very, very basic. Inside the shoulder, the joint allows it to swing forward like so. We've got the full 360 spin right here. The shoulder armor can tilt up ever so slightly. And there he is, raising his arm all the way up, and that's pretty damn good. Let's try that again with the shoulder on. There we go. Yeah, that is pretty damn good. We have full rotation at the upper arm. This shoulder armor is driving me cracked. I'm leaving it off. As for the elbow joint, it can go from there to there, so it's okay about 90 degrees, not a whole lot more. The wrist here is a standard ball joint, and these claws can move from here to there. The dragon's head can open its mouth upwards like so, open the mouth downwards like that. Next up, as for that ab crunch, it's a pair of ball joints. There it is all the way to the front, all the way back, quite basic. There's the side to side, and this is again a little bit on the flimsy side and may need some tightening up. Quite a lot of range of movement though when it comes to the side to side crunch, so pretty cool. There's a lot going on inside of the waist. This is a very intricate hip joint. It allows it to drop down and move outwards, but that does mean it is a little bit on the delicate side and a little bit on, well, the loose side. So I do recommend once again trying to tighten that up, but not too much that you'd end up breaking that fragile joint. So next up, as for the kicks, there it is all the way up to the front, so nothing gets in the way of that whatsoever. Out to the back, exactly the same. Lost a toe, I'll talk about that in a second. There is the leg all the way out to the side, so it's not going to be pulling off the splits, nor is it going to be holding its legs up too effectively. The tail here is on a ball joint, so I can rotate and move ever so slightly. We also have another rotating joint down here to give it a little bit of a flick in whatever direction you like. The bend at the knee is basic, but again, not the worst. And there's the ankle down, up, and we have a pivot side to side. Now, as for the toes, what I was going to mention is these come all attached together. For example, if you move these up, they all move up together. You move them down, they all move down together. But you can cut them apart on the runner to make them all individual ball joints, but the problem is if you cut them a little too much, or, well, if you cut them to being just a ball, they will start to rotate as well in there. So if you are going to separate these so you can move them individually for a little bit of extra posing potential, I recommend leaving a little bit of the cylinder beside the balls so that they don't rotate in there and get all weird all of the time. Because otherwise, they get a little bit weird. Last up, as for the wings, we've got rotation, this outward rotation. We have a bend right here. And finally, the last joint right here is a bit of rotation with a upward movement like so, which completely separates the wing. So as for the articulation in general, it is passable. You will get some nice poses out of it, but nothing overly dramatic. This does also feature a bit of a transformation and some other movement that I didn't mention just yet, so that is not everything just yet. Let's get it transformed. So as for the transformation, it is simple enough. There is a lot of parts forming involved. What that means is that you have to take a bunch of parts off, then reattach them back on, as well as permanently removing some parts like the head, and adding some parts on that were not there before. Once again, very straightforward, but it does have a couple of pretty cool gimmicks here. Removing the missiles from the hips allows the upper leg to shorten for this mode, and we've got a little clip gimmick on the back of the legs that also allows the lower leg to get a little bit shorter. The complete opposite happens up at the arms. We've got a twist and extend gimmick at the wrist that locks into place, and the exact same goes for a little further up the arm, so we've got 2 points of lengthening on these particular arms. Besides that though, it's bash on a bunch of other parts, and this is what we get once it's transformed. Once again, I will mention that this is the mode that you build it in when you're following the manual. So this is what you will have first. Night mode is something you will transform into afterwards. So there's one thing I definitely have to say about this mode, and all the kind of minor jankiness of the night mode have been made into, well, a whole lot more jankiness. This just feels, as you can guess, very, very janky. So when it comes to posing, there isn't really much you can do in this mode, especially when it's just standing on the ground. And the head is ridiculously janky. This segment right here, the way it attaches is... honestly, it is horrendous. This attaches onto the back area when it's in night mode, so it has one set of attachment points on the inside, and then a different set for attaching onto the back of the head, and it just, well, it doesn't do its job very, very well. Like, there is a bunch of joints in this neck, but everything is just so wonky. There it is clipped in properly, and even just a little bit of movement, and there it goes, gone again. Also, like I mentioned, there isn't really much posing you can do on the ground with this particular mode. We do have an included adapter for with an action base, but this is so, well, kind of useless on the ground. It would have been nice if they included one of these action bases like we got with Metal Garurumon. Quite similarly to Metal Garurumon, this attaches into the waist just like so, and that attaches onto one of Bandai's standard action bases. So now that you've actually got it up in the air, you can get some more poses out of it, but I can't with this head! Every time, go away. Either way, in the end, it does look pretty nice up on an action base and etc, etc. That head is annoying. Anyway, that right there is it for the review, and although this is an absolutely awesome looking kit, especially in night mode with all those varying plastic textures and everything, it just looks so cool, but it is very, very janky. I do recommend that you tighten it up as you're building it, especially around the knees and the waist. If you don't know how to tighten up joints, just apply a little bit of paint or top coat to those joints, let it dry, then attach them all together. Of course, don't over thicken them because they are delicate too. When we get to Dragon Mode is really where all the jankiness of this model kit does really come to light, and honestly, when it comes to the quality we've seen in the past from this line, ignoring Omegamon, this really isn't up to the same standard. Quality-wise, when it comes to the plastic, yes it is, but I guess just the fact that it transforms has kind of undermined both forms. It'd be nice to have a good night mode or a good dragon mode, but instead we get a bit of a meh both modes. So once again, I still feel that War Greymon's number 1, Metal Garurumon's number 2, this is now number 3, and Omegamon still at the bottom. Anyway, as always, if you do want one of your own, link down there in the description. As always, make sure to come back for more model kit reviews, and I'll see you next time. As usual, I cannot end this video without all my thanks to all of you who support me on the channel memberships, as well as over on Patreon, including Craig Jerry, Tyler Sanders, the ambassador for Asymmetric Cats, Caleb Engelhart, and Sean T.